The sky above the alien city was red with dust. The twin suns burned bright as the crowd gathered in the arena. It was not just a fight today. It was a show, a lesson, a punishment, and the victim was human. Corporal Rhea Monroe stood still in the middle of the arena sand. Her armor was scratched, her helmet dented, but she didn't seem afraid. She was small compared to everything around her. Walls rose high like mountains, filled with alien spectators screaming for blood. At the far end, the gate opened with a loud groan. Out stepped an 8-foot alien gladiator with red skin and black eyes. Her name was Voraxel, the undefeated, the crusher of humans. Muscles like armor, voice like thunder, she walked in with pride. The crowd roared when they saw her. They chanted her name, laughed at Rhea, pointed at the small human, and mocked her. "Toothpick," one alien said. "She won't last a minute." Another hissed. Rhea didn't move. She only stared, calm and cold. The alien announcer's voice echoed across the arena. "Today, the mighty Voraxel will show this human what real warriors look like." He laughed. The crowd laughed with him, but Rhea said nothing. Voraxel stepped closer. Towering above Rhea like a mountain, she looked down and smirked. "You look like something I stepped on yesterday," she growled. Still, Rhea didn't answer. The announcer gave the signal. The fight had begun. Voraxel charged, her giant fist coming down like a hammer. But Rhea rolled to the side, fast and smooth. The sand rose in a cloud as the hit missed. The crowd gasped, surprised at her speed. Rhea stood again, steady, her eyes sharp. Voraxel snarled and swung again, this time with both arms. Rhea ducked low and kicked Voraxel in the leg, not hard, but fast. The giant stumbled, just a little, but enough for the crowd to notice. There was a pause, just for a second, and in that silence, Rhea smiled. It was small, almost hidden under her helmet, but it was there, and it made Voraxel furious. The alien roared and slammed her foot into the ground. Cracks spread across the floor. Dust flew everywhere, but Rhea had already moved. She was behind Voraxel now. The crowd didn't know what to do. Some cheered, some shouted in anger. They had come to see a human beg for mercy. But now they watched something they didn't expect. Up in the control booth, alien officials whispered to each other. Where did this human come from? One asked, "She's not on the usual list," another said. Someone tried to check the files, but the data was missing. Down in the arena, Voraxel breathed hard. She wasn't used to being hit or missing. She charged again, roaring louder than ever. This time, she grabbed a piece of the floor and threw it like a rock. It hit Rhea's shoulder and knocked her down. The crowd cheered, thinking it was over. But Rhea rolled, stood up again, blood on her arm. She didn't even look at the wound. She tapped her wrist once, very quickly. No one noticed except one alien engineer in the control room. He leaned closer to the screen. "What was that?" he whispered. Voraxel came again, full speed, ready to end it. But as she reached out, Rhea jumped higher than any human should. She landed behind the gladiator, reached out, and touched a small spot on her back. Voraxel froze for a moment. Her eyes wide, pain shot through her spine. She screamed and stumbled forward. The crowd fell silent, not understanding what had just happened. Rhea didn't follow up. She simply stood still again, watching. Voraxel turned slowly, rage in her eyes. "You! What did you do to me?" she shouted. Rhea tilted her head, then finally spoke. "Just leveling the field," she said quietly. The crowd exploded with noise again. But this time it was different. Some cheered for her, some shouted for her death. But no one was laughing anymore. Up in the control booth, someone hit an emergency button, but nothing happened. Systems were being blocked. Something was wrong, or maybe something was planned. And far above the arena, in a hidden orbit, a human stealth ship waited in silence, watching, listening, ready. Voraxel stood tall again, breathing heavy, her black eyes locked on Rhea. The wound on her back was small, but it burned like fire. She had never felt pain like this, not from any human, not from any weapon. Something was wrong, and she knew it. The crowd screamed for more, shouting in different alien tongues. Some wanted blood, some wanted the fight to stop, but no one took their eyes off the two fighters below. Even the nobles in the high seats leaned forward, suddenly curious. Rhea didn't move, her body calm, but her eyes sharp. She kept one hand near her wrist device, hidden beneath her armor. She didn't smile now, but her silence was louder than any scream. She had already made her point. She wasn't here to lose. Varexo roared and charged again. This time her movements were wild, angry, full of pride and fear mixed together. She raised both arms and brought them down like twin hammers. The arena shook as the impact cracked the stone floor. But Rhea had already moved. She ran to the side, slid under a broken pillar, and jumped behind the alien again. Fast, too fast for the crowd to follow. Gasps filled the stadium like a wave. She struck the back of Varexal's knee with her boot. The giant dropped down for a moment, one leg folding under her. Rhea leapt back before she could be caught. Still no follow-up, no killing blow, only control. Varexal looked up, confused now. She had trained her whole life, fought hundreds of battles. No one had ever made her feel so powerless, not even the other champions of the arena. What are you? She shouted, but Rhea gave no answer. The crowd quieted again, unsure if they were watching a fight or something else. A shift had happened, and they all felt it. Up in the arena's control tower, alarms blinked red and orange. A technician tried to override the feed, but the system wasn't responding. Every screen showed only one thing, Rhea, and something was feeding live data out to space. In the shadows of the noble box, an old alien diplomat stood. He whispered into a device. "This is no ordinary human. She was sent." Others around him nodded slowly, their faces tense. This was not part of the plan. Varexal stood again, slower now. Her breathing was louder than the crowd. She stared at Rhea, not with hate but with doubt. Her hands opened wide, no longer fists. Rhea walked toward her, step by step, not fast, not slow, just steady. The whole stadium was silent now, like the world itself was watching. Even the wind held its breath. Varexal took one step back, then two. She raised a hand like she might speak, but stopped. Rhea lifted her arm and tapped something on her wrist. A soft blue light flickered for 1 second, then vanished. Suddenly, a loud voice echoed through the arena, not the announcer. It was a human voice, coming from the speakers above. "This is Corporal Monroe of Earth's Recon Unit," it said. "You are watching a live test of Subject 9. Combat-level harmony suit." Gasps, shouts, even screams filled the air. The aliens had been tricked. This wasn't just a fight, it was a message. A demonstration of human power, hidden until now. Rhea didn't flinch. She stood still, looking at Varexal with steady eyes. Varexal lowered her arms slowly. She looked around at the crowd, then back at Rhea. For the first time in her life, she was unsure of herself. Not because she was hurt, but because she was outmatched. Rhea walked past her, not even looking back. She stopped near the gate where she first entered, then turned around, her voice sharp and clear. "This isn't over, but now you know what we're capable of." She tapped her wrist again, and the ground beneath her shimmered. A platform rose, lifting her out of the arena. As she vanished into the air, the audience remained frozen. Not from fear, but from respect. Varexal dropped to her knees. Not from pain, but from something deeper. A weight in her chest, a fire in her mind. She looked up at the sky, where Rhea had gone, and for the first time, she felt something she had never known: humility. The arena stayed quiet long after Rhea was gone. The sand still carried the echo of her footsteps. Varexal remained on her knees, staring at the empty sky above. Her chest rose and fell slowly, not from pain but from deep confusion. The crowd had not moved. Many whispered among themselves, afraid to speak too loudly. The humans had changed the game, and everyone knew it now. This wasn't just a fight, it was a message sent across the stars, deep inside the arena tower, hidden behind Thick metal walls. A room flickered with warning lights. Alien officials rushed around in panic. Their voices were sharp, overlapping with fear. "Shut the feed," one shouted. "Trace the signal," another barked. But it was too late. Outside the walls, news of Rhea's fight spread fast. Clips from the battle were already being shared across alien networks. Translated subtitles followed every word she said. Even her smile became a simple calm power in the face of giants. But Rhea wasn't done. Somewhere below the arena, hidden in a secret level only the elite had access to, she moved like a shadow. She had never left the structure. The platform that took her away had dropped her into the underbelly of the arena, and now she was walking through the dark, alone. Her boots made soft clicks on metal floors. The hall was cold, silent, filled with flickering lights and hidden cameras. But Rhea's wrist device blinked with confidence. She wasn't lost, she was right where she planned to be. A soft voice crackled through her earpiece. "Monroe, you have 20 minutes until..." "Uplink blackout," Rhea whispered back. "Copy that. Heading to Sector Black." Her hand touched the wall, and a blue panel lit up under her fingers. The door opened with a hiss. Inside was something worse than any arena fight. Rows of large cages filled the room, and inside them warriors. Strong ones from different species, eyes glowing, armor bolted to their skin. They were breathing, but not free. Some looked up as she walked in. They didn't speak, but their eyes followed her with a mixture of hope and fear. On the far wall, a screen showed data names, power levels, win records. Each of them had been champions until they were used up and locked away. Rhea stopped in front of one cage. Inside was an older alien, skin gray and rough, one eye missing. He stared at her and said nothing for a moment. Then slowly he nodded. "I fought like you once," he whispered, "before they made me something else." Rhea lowered her head for a second, then tapped her wrist. A small drone floated out of her back panel, scanning the cages. She whispered, "We're getting you out." The old alien didn't react. Maybe he didn't believe it yet. Back up in the arena, Vorexel was still kneeling when two guards came to escort her. She didn't resist. Her thoughts were heavy, spinning with everything that had just happened. But as she walked through the tunnel, something made her stop. She turned suddenly and punched one of the guards in the throat. The second guard raised a weapon, but she grabbed it and smashed it against the wall. Then she ran not up, but down where the air was colder, down where Rhea had gone. Her boots slammed against the metal, heart pounding. She didn't know why she was chasing the human. She had no plan, no orders, only one thought in her head. "I need to understand." She found the hidden lift open. Still humming, she stepped inside, pressed nothing, and let it descend. Her reflection on the metal door looked unfamiliar. For the first time, she saw not a warrior, but a lost soul. The lift stopped, and she stepped out into darkness. Then she saw Rhea standing in the middle of the cage room, surrounded by broken locks and freed prisoners. They all looked at Vorexel as she entered. Some stepped back in fear, but Rhea didn't move. The two warriors stared at each other in silence. Not enemies anymore, not quite allies either. Finally, Vorexel spoke, her voice dry and low. "I don't understand you," Rhea replied. "You don't have to." Then she held out a hand. Vorexel looked down at the hand. It wasn't a weapon. It was an offer, an invitation, and without a word, she took it. The room was filled with silence, not because there was nothing to say, but because no one dared to speak. Rhea's hand still hung in the air, steady and calm. Vorexel held it loosely, like someone touching fire for the first time. Her fingers were twice as big. Her grip could crush bones, but she didn't squeeze. Not this time. The other warriors in the cages stood still, watching the strange moment. Many of them had never seen Vorexel show anything but violence. Now she looked confused, unsure, almost human. Rhea pulled her hand back slowly, then walked over to the center of the room. She raised her wrist again, and the small drone returned, blinking with green Light. Scan complete, it said in a soft voice. Signal blocked, but local systems unlocked. She knelt beside a panel on the floor and pried it open. Wires, glowing with soft blue light, twisted inside like nerves. She connected her wrist device to the system. A wave of static ran across the lights in the room. Then something began to shift. One by one, the cages opened. The warriors didn't rush out, didn't shout or run. They stepped forward slowly, as if stepping out of a bad dream. Many of them looked at Rhea with quiet wonder. She didn't smile, but nodded to each of them. Varexel watched, her body tense, her mind spinning. She whispered, "What are you?" Rhea stood and answered without turning around. "I'm not just a soldier." She tapped her wrist again, and this time her armor changed. The plates along her arms split open like blooming metal petals. Underneath, glowing circuits ran along. Her skin, tiny moving parts adjusted themselves with perfect precision. It wasn't just armor, it was alive, a harmony suit, rare human tech that few outside Earth had ever seen. Varexel took a step back, her jaw tight. "That's Forbidden's tech," she said. Rhea finally looked her in the eyes. It was Forbidden's, until now. One of the alien prisoners spoke, a quiet voice from the side. "If the humans had this all along, why wait to show it now?" Rhea walked to him, lowered her voice. "Because we weren't sure if we needed to." She looked around at the cracked walls, the broken cages, the wounded pride. "But now we are, up above them." In the control tower, red alarms flared brighter. The officials had lost control of the lower floors. Doors weren't responding. Cameras had gone dark. "Someone has overridden the system," one shouted. "The humans' tech is rewriting our protocols," another screamed, but no one could stop it. Rhea's drone hovered over the group, releasing a soft pulse of sound. It scanned each prisoner and mapped their biosigns. 15 stable, 5 injured, 3 close to failure, it reported. She turned to Varexel. "Help me get them out." The alien warrior stepped forward, then paused. "You want me to fight them?" she asked, nodding toward the tower. "No," Rhea said. "I want you to fight for them." It wasn't a command. It was a challenge, a choice. Varexel clenched her fists, looked down at the scars on her arms. She had earned every one in battle, for glory, for honor, for crowds. But none of those things felt real anymore. Now all she had was this moment, and the strange feeling that maybe, just maybe, her life wasn't wasted. She nodded once. "Then let's break this place," she said. Rhea touched her wrist again, and a path lit up on the wall, an emergency tunnel. It hadn't been used in years, maybe decades. It led straight to the energy core of the arena, a place never meant for prisoners or warriors, only for those in control. The group moved quickly, wounded supported by the stronger ones. Rhea and Varexel led the way, side by side. The ground shook under their boots as security drones began to power up above. They were out of time. Rhea didn't speak, but inside her helmet, a silent countdown ticked. Human ships were on their way. But if the core wasn't taken offline before they arrived, the entire arena might self-destruct, and with it, everyone inside. Varexel looked at her, breath sharp. "If I die, what will they say about me?" Rhea didn't hesitate. "They'll say you changed." The emergency tunnel was dark and narrow. Dust fell from above as the structure groaned with old age and pressure. Rhea led the group with steady steps, her eyes scanning ahead, behind her. Varexel walked in silence, her tall frame brushing against the walls. They had walked for 20 minutes before they reached a split in the path. One tunnel led deeper toward the core, where the system pulse was strongest. The other path curved away, quiet, empty, unused. Rhea stopped and looked down that second tunnel. Varexel noticed. "What's down there?" she asked. Rhea didn't answer right away. Then she said, "Something we both need." She turned to the others. "Keep moving. Follow the drone," she ordered. They nodded, too tired to ask questions. Rhea stepped into the side tunnel, and Varexel followed her without hesitation. There were no cameras here, no watchers, no noise. Just the sound of two warriors walking on metal floors. Rhea finally stopped in a wide chamber with old training symbols on the walls. Once this had been a private practice room. She turned around slowly. "We end this here," she said. Varexo blinked, unsure. "You want to fight again?" Rhea nodded. "No armor, no tricks, just you and me." She began removing pieces of her harmony suit, dropping them on the floor one by one. Varexo watched her, then did the same soon. They stood facing each other in plain clothing, bare hands, bare skin, no tech. No weapons, just muscle, instinct, and fire. For a long time neither moved. Then Rhea stepped forward and threw the first punch. It wasn't sharp or brutal, it was a test. Varexo blocked it, barely, and answered with her own strike. They moved fast, trading blows, sweat flying, feet scraping against the ground. But it wasn't rage. And it wasn't hatred, it was something else. It was truth. Spoken through fists and bruises, ducked under a heavy swing. Landed a jab to Varexo's ribs. The alien grunted, but didn't back away. They kept fighting, harder now. Both of them breathing heavy, blood on their lips. Rhea's knuckles were torn. Varexo's nose was bleeding, but neither of them cared. Then, without warning, Varexo stopped. She dropped to her knees, gasping for air. Rhea stood over her. Fists raised, then slowly lowered them. She took a step back, her chest rising and falling with each breath. "I could finish it," Rhea said, voice rough. Varexo looked up at her, not with anger, but with something close to peace. No," she whispered. "I deserve it." Rhea shook her head. "No," she said, "you don't." The silence returned, this time heavier than before. Then Varexo did something no one in the galaxy had seen her do. She bowed, her forehead touched the floor, her hands open in surrender. "I mocked your kind," she said softly. "I crushed humans and laughed about it." Rhea didn't speak. Varexo's voice shook as she went on. "But when I saw you fight, not for glory, not for a crowd, but for truth, I broke inside." She looked up, tears in her dark eyes. "You made me remember what it means to fight with purpose." She said, "Not to win, but to matter." Rhea knelt beside her. "You were never my enemy," she said. "I was your reflection." For a long time they sat there together, both bleeding, both broken, and yet both finally whole when they stood again. They were no longer rivals, they were something more. Two warriors who had seen each other's truth and chosen to rise from it, not fall. The energy core pulsed deep under the arena like a giant, living heart, thick cables wrapped around it like veins, glowing with a slow red light. It hummed, quietly steady and patient, like it had been waiting for years, waiting for someone to see what was hidden beneath the surface. Rhea and Varexo stood before it, side by side, both bruised but walking strong. Their journey through the tunnels had been silent, filled only with the soft sounds of dripping water and shifting metal. Rhea's armor was back on, but she hadn't activated any weapons. Varexo carried no blade, only the strength in her arms and the storm inside her mind. They passed a sealed door marked in alien script, ancient and faded. Rhea paused, then touched her wrist device to it. The door hissed open slowly, revealing a room colder than the rest, a circular chamber filled with large capsules, standing upright like frozen tombs. Inside them were beings unmoving, asleep or maybe worse. Some were alien, but others looked human. Varexo stepped forward, her voice low. "What is this place?" Rhea didn't answer. She was too busy reading the data flickering across her screen. She scrolled fast, eyes narrowing. "This isn't just a power center," she finally said. "It's a memory bank." The walls came alive with flickering images, fights, tests, failures, pain. One screen showed Rhea's own battle replaying again and again. Another showed early experiments, gladiators injected with strange fluids, implanted with tech. Each test ended the same way, with silence. "They used the arena to study us," Rhea said. "Every match was recorded, every move tracked." She pointed to a console. This isn't sport, it's science. Veraxel clenched her fists. We were nothing to them, she growled. Just animals in a ring, Rhea nodded. Slowly. They built this place to understand how we break. A sharp beep echoed from the control panel. Rhea checked it, an alert flashing red. Someone's trying to wipe the system, she said. They know we're here. Her fingers danced. Across the interface, blocking the signal, copying files, Veraxel moved to the side wall, where a hidden hatch clicked open with a hiss. Inside was something strange, a pod. But not like the others. It was darker, deeper, colder. Inside the pod was a child, maybe 10 years old, not human, not fully alien either. Its skin shimmered between colors, its eyes shut tight. Rhea froze when she saw it. Is it alive? Veraxel asked. Rhea scanned quickly. Heartbeat slow, but steady, she said. She looked at the readings again. Her voice suddenly quiet. This one isn't. A fighter, she whispered. It's a prototype. Veraxel tilted her head. For what? Rhea stared at the screen, voice heavy. A hybrid, she said. Half human, half augmented alien. Her chest tightened. They weren't just watching us. She added, they were building something from us. Above them, heavy footsteps echoed through the metal halls. Security forces had found the broken tunnel door. They were coming fast, no time for full download. Rhea grabbed the pod release. I'm not leaving it behind, she said. Veraxel nodded without argument. She stepped between the door and Rhea. Ready to hold the line, Rhea's suit tightened, plates shifting to shield the child as she lifted it carefully. The lights dimmed as the main power core began to shake. Alarms screamed through the complex. A voice crackled through the overhead speakers. Unauthorized breach detected. Initiate total collapse. Rhea's eyes widened. They're going to destroy the entire arena. Veraxel turned to her, voice calm. Then we destroy the ones who ordered it. They ran fast and focused, carrying the truth with them. Behind them, the arena began to fall apart. Walls cracked, flames burst from vents, metal screeched under pressure. But ahead was a single path toward the tower, toward the ones who had watched and planned for years, the ones who had mocked the weak and played with lives. They were about to meet two warriors who wouldn't be part of the game anymore. Not fighters, not toys, not tools. They were the reckoning. Smoke filled the upper tower as the last defense gate collapsed. The control room was in chaos, screens blinking, systems crashing one by one. Alien officials shouted at each other, but their voices were drowned by sirens. Outside, the sky burned orange as the arena began to break apart. The great structure that once held blood, pride, and cruelty was dying. But two figures climbed toward its heart with fire in their steps and fury in their eyes. Rhea carried the child in her arms, shielded by her half-broken harmony suit. Veraxel walked beside her, fists bloody, body bruised, soul awake. They reached the final door, thick, armored, sealed tight. Rhea set the child down gently, pressed her wrist against the lock. The system rejected her access, but she didn't stop. She drew a small tool from her suit and jammed it into the panel. Sparks flew, lights died, and the heavy door slid open with a moan. Inside stood 5 high-ranking arena lords, dressed in silver armor, calm and ready. They didn't run. They didn't panic. They smiled. One of them stepped forward, his voice smooth and cold. Congratulations, human, he said. You performed better than expected. Rhea didn't speak. She only stared. Another one raised a hand and pointed to the child behind her. Return the prototype, he said. We can fix this, all of it. Veraxel stepped forward and growled. You don't get to fix anything. The lords looked at her with amusement. You were our greatest tool, one said to her. And now you follow the enemy like a lost pet. Her eyes burned at those words. Rhea took one small step forward. You made a mistake, she said. You thought this was about a fight. She paused, then added, but this was always about a choice. She turned slightly to Veraxel and nodded. Without a word, Veraxel roared and charged the nearest lord. The room exploded into violence, metal clashing, fists flying. Rhea dropped low, kicked another in the leg, and slammed her elbow into his neck. They fought like fire, not for points or prizes, but for every soul they had watched suffer. The Harmony suit sparked, its systems failing, but Rhea fought on with her bare hands. Varexel screamed with rage, breaking bones with each strike. Blood stained the polished floor where lies had once ruled. One by one, the lords fell, not because they were weak, but because they had forgotten what real strength looked like. They had trained with numbers, screens, and machines. But Rhea and Varexel had trained with pain, scars, and truth. When the last enemy dropped, silence filled the room. Only the hum of the dying arena remained. Rhea walked to the central console, her body shaking. She looked down at the final command panel, then back at the child still lying in the doorway. "Can we save it?" Varexel asked, voice hoarse. Rhea checked the signals, her face hard to read. "Not here," she said. "But maybe, if we leave now." She triggered a final code from her wrist, and above them, a beacon lit up in the smoke. Far above the planet, a human warship locked on. Drop pods launched toward the surface like falling stars. The ground trembled as the arena began its last collapse. Rhea picked up the child and ran. Varexel followed, ignoring the pain in her legs, her arms, her heart. They reached the roof just as the human pods broke through the clouds. The blast wave hit behind them, fire chasing their heels. A pod door opened midair, pulling them inside with force and heat. Rhea cradled the child. Varexel collapsed beside her, coughing. They made it. The pod door sealed, and the sound of battle faded. Rhea looked over at Varexel, her voice low. "You're free now." Varexel smiled through the blood. "No," she whispered. "We're free." As the pod climbed back toward space, the arena crumbled into dust. No more crowds, no more cages, no more chains. Just a broken world below, and a new one waiting above. The child in Rhea's arms stirred, its eyes opening for the first time. It didn't cry, it didn't speak. It just looked at both of them, human and alien, and smiled.